今天，投资洞见将带你走进一场难得的对话。投资传奇沃伦·巴菲特将与我们分享他与已故好友、新闻界巨擘凯瑟琳·格雷厄姆的非凡故事。访谈中，巴菲特讲述了二人初次相识的趣闻，以及格雷厄姆领导华盛顿邮报所展现出的非凡远见，如何让他获得了超过30倍的投资回报。不仅如此，巴菲特还坦言了自己对当今关税政策的看法，剖析全球经济环境对投资者的深远影响。这是一段跨越友情、商业与政策的精彩对话，值得每一位关注投资与新闻的人细细品味。
Katharine Graham was a trailblazing CEO and publisher of The Washington Post during some of the 20th century's biggest events, like the Watergate scandal and the Pentagon Papers. Her life, her friendship with then Washington Post shareholder Warren Buffett, and the extent of her feud with President Richard Nixon are all the center of a new documentary titled Becoming Katharine Graham, now streaming on Amazon Prime.
At the center of the story is an unlikely friendship that began on June 4th, 1973.
Ah, this is the letter.
That's the famous letter.
The famous letter.
When Buffett sent Graham a letter after buying a significant amount of the Washington Post company's stock.
I said, I'll never buy another share unless you personally okay it. And I signed a document, and we became friends.
Later in the show, Warren Buffett on Katharine Graham's heroism.
Would you say Katharine Graham was one of your heroes?
Oh, yeah. To do what she did under those circumstances, show me anybody else. I mean, there are people, the firemen during 9/11. I mean, there's all kinds of heroes in the world.
Of course, yeah.
But it was a unique kind of heroism by a woman. And she didn't think of herself as representing women, all of it. She was kind of uncomfortable in that. But like it or not, that she was in the spot.
When Katharine Graham's husband, Philip, committed suicide, she was thrown into his role as publisher for The Washington Post. Graham went from being a housewife to becoming the first female CEO of a Fortune 500 company. It was because of her that the Post's stock price went up 3,000%. Nora O'Donnell sat down with Graham's dear friend and Washington Post investor, Warren Buffett, to learn why he believes Graham was one of a kind.
If there's any story that should be told, it should be her story. If I was a young girl, I'd want to hear that story. It would change my self-image.
Warren Buffett rarely gives interviews, but also rare his friendship with the late trailblazing publisher of The Washington Post.
Why did you want to talk about Katharine Graham?
Well, she was one of a kind, and she was terrified of the job. She knew she could do things, but she'd been told all her life that she wasn't, and that females didn't do things. I mean, her mother told her, nobody's interested in listening to you. And so all of a sudden, here she is, and she had an all-male board that was waiting for her, and all they wanted was her to stay home and cash the dividend checks.
Graham was thrust into the role, taking over the company after her husband, Philip Graham, died by suicide. She was then at the center of some of the century's biggest stories.
The much discussed and apparently widely read but still classified Pentagon documents were turned over to Congress today.
She made the decision to publish the Pentagon Papers that helped lead to the end of the Vietnam War.
5 men with bugging gear were found in Democratic headquarters here in the Watergate building.
It was Katharine Graham who supported the investigative journalism that led to President Nixon's resignation after Watergate.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
It was such an extraordinary time.
Oh, everything. And she had been drummed into her head. Only men can succeed at business.
The worst handicap women work under is the self-inflicted one that if you've grown up thinking of yourself as a second-class citizen, that you tend always to put yourself down.
Graham's journey from housewife to the first female CEO of a Fortune 500 company is laid out in a new documentary, Becoming Katharine Graham, now streaming on Amazon Prime.
I said, Mrs. Graham, you control this company lock, stock, and barrel, but you're still worried about me.
At the center of the story is an unlikely friendship that began on June 4th, 1973.
Ah, this is the letter.
That's the famous letter.
The famous letter.
When Buffett sent Graham a letter after buying a significant amount of the Washington Post company's stock.
I said, I'll never buy another share unless you personally okay it. And I signed a document, and we became friends.
He used to come to board meetings with about 20 annual reports, and he would take me through these annual reports. I mean, it was like going to business school with Warren Buffett.
Why did you invest in the Washington Post in the first place?
Well, it was ridiculously cheap.
You saw a bargain.
Oh, it was a super bargain. It was worth at least $500 million and was selling for $100 million.
She was beyond lucky. Thank God our stock got so cheap that it attracted Warren's attention in 1973.
Don Graham is Catherine's son and a former publisher of the Post.
Don Graham says that Warren Buffett is the greatest thing in business that ever happened to Katharine Graham.
She needed somebody to reassure her.
What were the things you would say to her to boost her confidence?
The biggest thing I said is, I said, when you look in the mirror, you know, it's a funhouse mirror because you're seeing it through the eyes of what the males are telling you about it. So my job is to turn that funhouse mirror into a regular mirror. And she knew I was on her side. And I admired her enormously. And she was torturing herself. She couldn't help doing that.
Nixon hated the Post and us personally for his dying day.
The documentary, for the first time, shows the public the full extent of President Richard Nixon's feud with Katharine Graham.
I saw her on the TV last night, Mrs. Graham. I would have thought she's about 85 years old.
Yeah.
She's only about, I think, something like 57.
Oh, no, I know that.
She's aged terribly.
She's a terrible old bag.
Oh, she's an old bitch in my estimation.
That's right.
Did she talk about facing that kind of sexism and those kind of taunts from even the President of the United States?
Well, Nixon didn't scare her at all.
What did scare her was the idea of losing the paper.
The Washington Post, its press is crippled in a violent strike by...
Never did that feel more real to Graham than in 1975, when the Post's printers damaged the presses and went on a bitter strike for more than 4 months, limiting the paper's circulation.
How challenging was that?
Well, that tore her apart. She was suffering in that way at that time more than she ever suffered during Watergate or during the Pentagon Papers or anything, but she thought she might be blowing everything.
Buffett told us Katharine Graham prevailed because she was brave, and it's because of her that the Washington Post company's stock price went up more than 3,000% while she was publisher. But she didn't just make Buffett a lot of money.
She said, my effect on Warren has mostly been limited to his lifestyle. I introduced him to the possibility that a steady diet of fast food and cherry cokes might not be the best for him.
Yeah, but she didn't convert me.
So your favorite foods are?
Whatever I was eating when I was 6.
Which was?
It was hot dogs and hamburgers and Coke and ice cream sundaes. Root beer floats are my favorite. I frequently have a dinner of a root beer float.
And so you're at Katharine Graham's house at this fancy, you know, her very
fancy.
Yeah,
and she's got a chef and a French.
Her French chef, and you get served a lobster. And what did you do with the lobster?
Well, I unfortunately attacked it from the wrong side. and finally, and of course, she was very reluctant to criticize me. Finally, at some point, she said, you know, it might be helpful or something if you turn it. And what did I know about lobsters?
Graham died in 2001, and Buffett served as an usher at her funeral.
That's a good picture.
As for the Oracle of Omaha, the legendary investor is now 94 years old, still chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, and still making front-page news. Every word he utters has the power to roil the financial markets.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions about kind of how you see the state of the economy right now?
Well, I think that's the most interesting subject in the world, but I won't talk. I can't talk about it. No, I really can't.
How do you think tariffs will affect the economy?
I mean, tariffs are actually, we've had a lot of experience with them. They're an act of war to some degree.
How do you think tariffs will impact inflation?
Over time, they're a tax on goods. I mean, you know, the tooth fairy doesn't pay them. I mean, and you always have to just, and then what? You always have to ask that question in economics. Always say, and then what?
So is there an answer for that when people say, you know, inflation persists, consumer prices keep going up, when's the end in sight?
No, prices will be higher. 10 years from now and 20 years from now and 30 years from now.
And what do you think about what's happening in Washington right now? About efforts to
I think
cut
it's
the-
Washington.
Yeah.
It's, technology changes things, all kinds of things, but Washington is Washington. And the problem with politics is that you tend to have to make tiny compromises as you go along.
And what do you think about Elon Musk's efforts to cut?
Well, I better not get into that. Oh,
Do you talk to him at all?
I've talked to Elon a few times.
And any thoughts about his current efforts in Washington? No. No. You've always been bullish on American companies.
Majority of any money I manage will always be in the United States.
And why is that?
It's the best place. I was lucky to be born here.
Up next, an exclusive excerpt from Norah O'Donnell's chat with Warren Buffett, something you can only see right here on Here Comes the Sun. Stay with us. As promised, here's more from Norah O'Donnell's interview with Warren Buffett.
What's your favorite memory of Kay?
Well, I would say one of them would be when that book of hers won the Pulitzer. She'd worked on it 5 years. Meg Greenfield, everybody tried to help, but you got to write your own book. I mean, and it was an incredibly interesting book. It was an honest book. I never met anybody that read that book that was disappointed that they'd read it.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. And it was tough, for her to write it.
Would you say Katharine Graham was one of your heroes?
Oh, yeah. To do what she did under those circumstances, show me anybody else. I mean, there are people, the firemen during 9/11. I mean, there's all kinds of heroes in the world. But,
of course, yeah.
But it was a unique kind of heroism by a woman. And she didn't think of herself as representing women, all of it. That she was kind of uncomfortable in that. But like it or not, that she was in the spot.
And she confided in you many of those
She trusted
vulnerable.
me. Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about Katharine Graham's legacy, but I wonder if you want to talk about your legacy.
My legacy is peanuts. my legacy is Berkshire.
Do you feel like you've been lucky?
Oh, I've been so lucky, it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Do you have regrets?
Oh, well, everybody has regrets. Yeah, everybody has regrets. No, you're born smart, but you can be born smarter otherwise, but you're not born wise.
以上是投资洞见为你带来的沃伦·巴菲特2025年谈凯瑟琳·格雷厄姆的访谈内容。如果你希望看到更多投资者的访谈内容，请在评论区留言，并记得关注我们。投资洞见，一个专注于投资的频道，为你带来独特的投资智慧。感谢收看，我们下期再会。